Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Truman Pippert, and I'm here with Jack Eastman to talk to you today about the history of March Madness.
I'm Jack Eastman, like Truman said. I think you guys know who we're rooting for based on all of our Creighton attire. So we're really excited for March Madness this year, and we're hoping that Creighton does well.
All right, let's jump into a little bit of history before we talk about some fun facts and commonly asked questions later on. So the University of Oregon defeated Ohio State University 46-33 on March 27th, 1939 to win the first ever NCAA men's basketball tournament. March Madness, as the tournament became known, has grown exponentially in size and popularity since then. By 2005, college basketball had become the most popular sporting event among gamblers after the Super Bowl. The majority of that betting takes place at tournament time when Las Vegas, the internet, and office pools around the country see action from sports enthusiasts and once-a-year gamblers alike.
And for the first 12 years of the men's tournament, only 8 teams were invited to participate. That number grew steadily until a 65-team tournament format was unveiled in 2001. In 2011, the field expanded even further, allowing 68 teams to qualify for the so-called Big Dance. After 4 play-in games between, now known as the First Four, the tournament breaks up into 4 regions of 16 teams. The winning teams from those regions comprise the Final Four, who meet in this year's host city to determine the champion.
So the NCAA held its first women's basketball tournament in 1982. The women's tournament started with 32 teams and then expanded to 64 teams before the 1994 season. Today, the women's format echoes the men's, with play in 4 regions culminating in a Final Four held in a single location. The championship is played the day after the men's, concluding the college basketball season. So that information was from history.com, and now we're going to move into some commonly asked questions and other fun facts straight from the NCAA.
Right, yeah, and I'll take it off from there. So a lot of people wonder where the phrase March Madness came from. So it was first used to refer to basketball by an Illinois high school official, Henry V. Porter, in 1939. But it didn't find its way into the NCAA tournament until CBS broadcaster Brett Munzberger, who used to be a sports writer in Chicago, used it during coverage of the 1982 tournament. The term has been synonymous with the NCAA Division I men's basketball tournament ever since.
One question people have is, what is One Shining Moment? And One Shining Moment is the anthem of March Madness. It's a song that was written by David Barrett in 1986 and was first used for the NCAA men's basketball tournament in 1987. After each tournament, the song accompanies a montage of the best moments of March Madness, from every buzzer beater and major upset to reactions of the fans themselves. Barrett wrote the song as an ode to basketball, but it was first scheduled to run after Super Bowl 21. After the coverage of the game ran long, the song never aired for the Super Bowl, but CBS producer Doug Towie used it in the following March Madness, where it has lived ever since.
And one of the biggest questions people have is, what is the biggest upset in March Madness history? And this one isn't even close. It's actually a recent occurrence. In a 2018 game, the 16-seeded UMBC won over the overall number 1 seed Virginia. And it's the first time in history that a 16 seed has beat a 1 seed, after the 1 seeds were a perfect 135-0 through the college basketball history. It's hard to find a bigger underdog than that. The 16 seed upset was actually seen as virtually impossible. And not only did UMBC pull it off against the top overall seed of the tournament, the game wasn't even close, with a final score margin of 20 points. That'll get you to the top of the list in March Madness updates. And just as a side note, I was actually watching that game. I was so surprised that a 16 seed had ever won because it never happened before.
And another question people ask is what the biggest March Madness comeback has been. With 6 minutes, 37 seconds left in the first half of a 2001 NCAA tournament game, Duke trailed Maryland 39-17. The Blue Devils would rally to win 94-84. That 22-point comeback is the largest in the history of the tournament. Strangely enough, Duke is on the other side of the runner-up as the Blue Devils blew an 18-point first-half lead against Seton Hall in 1989, as the Pirates eventually won 95-78.
So who has scored the most points in March? And actually, as Truman mentioned before, it is someone from the Duke Blue Devils. Christian Laettner has scored the most points in his NCAA tournament career with 407. From 1989 to 1992, Laettner played in an unprecedented 23 games, 24 throughout a 4-year period, while averaging 17.7 points per game. Only 9 players have eclipsed the 300-point mark during NCAA tournament play.
And one more fun question that people are curious about is what the highest scoring March Madness game ever was. And the answer to that was that the highest scoring game in NCAA tournament history came on March 18th of 1990, when Loyola Marymount beat Michigan by a final score of 149 to 115. In total, 264 points, which is miles ahead of the second place total of 234 points, which, interestingly enough, was also set by Loyola Marymount.
And which team would we think that would have the most NCAA tournament appearances? So the so-called blue bloods are at the top of this list, with Kentucky, North Carolina, and Kansas notching 58, 50, and 48 appearances each. And moving on to which has the most NCAA tournament wins, the top of that list is Kentucky. Then next comes North Carolina, Duke, and Kansas in that order.
All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us on the history of the NCAA tournament. We're glad you could be with us today and hope you enjoyed our video.
Thanks everyone, and go Jays.
Thank you.